I do a lot of complaining, but there's some decent people out there. They just don't have the first fucking clue what's going on because they're superficial. It's a word I overuse these days, but it describes things. And when I say things like, crudely speaking, I'm also popping a bad pun. But most people aren't picking up what I'm putting down because people don't have a clue what's going on. They don't understand what this is. They'll argue with you if you tell them to look into it. So these, I don't know, I like the design. It's cute. It's very Shepard Fairey, unfortunately, but I mean, the message is neat. But where's the one that I was looking for? This one. No one is free until we are all free. So here in the States, what do I constantly bitch about? And yes, I'm marching around, I'm skating a bit, and I'm scouting locations, crudely speaking, for you-know-what, that thing that I'll invite you to if you pull your head out of your ass. Simple as that. Most people probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about and or care, or they won't see this message. But back to the point. I constantly rattle off, what? About the Republic. If I told you that, if I said the Republic, what am I talking about? In terms of freedom. You know, quote unquote freedom. If you can't fill in the blank by now, I mean, you aren't paying attention. I'm looking for people who are invested, which means they're involved. The Republic fell during the Civil War, and then I take a drink. And it was finalized in 1871, and I take a drink. This is when the Organic Act established the District of Columbia, the bottom of the trilateral city-states. This is a huge fucking issue. This controls you and I. This controls society. This controls what people consider the world, which by all rights is a realm. It's a slice of where we are and what this is. And people haven't figured that out. And I'm not talking about the flat earth, and I'm not talking about the globe theory. I'm not. Those are two outlines that are misleading in a number of ways. In many ways, they are similar outlines. And people have bought into that because people aren't very bright. They're willing to lap up the superficial shit and regurgitate it, but they're not willing to put in the time, energy, and grit, you know, to get things wrong more often than you get them right in order to do the right fucking thing, to see that no one is free until we are all free. The ancients, and you're not going to find this in a Google search, you probably won't even find this in a book. The ancients cut off our masters' heads and they buried their bodies face down. Keep in mind, they decapitated them. They buried them face down to disgrace who they are, and what they represented. What they did to the people that they subjugated. And this is old hat. And when I say old hat, I'm talking old hat. You might think of Sumer or ancient Egypt. Old hat. People don't have a clue. They do not have a clue. You can reason these things out. A number of the things that I babble about and I can teach you and that some of you have seen me speak to, I pulled my head out of my ass just over 10 years ago, over a decade, and I sorted out a good number of these things within 10 years' time, approximately. Which means, if you're brighter than me, which some of you probably are, but you're leaning on the paradigms like a crutch, you're willing to fall in the line and do what our masters say. You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to disturb people in your life that you know, like, and love, which means you're not doing the right thing. You need to challenge yourself. You need to challenge others. This is how our masters got us in a big fucking way. This is also how serial killing or murder in general is curbed. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, but it's also being burlesqued. It's being manipulated. In other words, the analogy I would give you if this was a deviant behavior course or a sociology or a psychology course is you're not going to go out the door. This is assuming you have part of a nuclear family still. You had a good mom and or you had a good dad. Whether you were adopted, whether you went through, foster homes, and or it's just blood relatives and what have you. So long as you have one of those two in your life that you care about, you're not going to go out and do some horrible shit because the community is going to fall back on the people you fucking care about, which is going to hurt them And so long as you have a heart in your chest that beats and does this, that, and the other thing, and you're capable of empathy and sympathy and all the other good stuff, you're not going to do that. But this works the other way too. Do you remember 2012? Or pardon me, I always say that. 2020, pardon me. 2020 is the beginning of the Enduring Agenda, something I thought was going to be rolled out a couple years after the fact, and I was off by a couple calendar cycles to say the least. And it caught me off guard because I had other plans. I knew something fucked up was going to happen in 2020, but I thought it was going to be short-lived and not long, not drawn out. Yeah. And that was a rude awakening for me. But what I'm driving at with this is people bought into a bunch of phony fucking messages that don't reflect reality in any form or way. I've bumped into so many people today who are wearing something over the fucking holes they breathe with, which is fucking them up. It's not a good thing for your system. It's not healthy at all. At all. I used to order masks for a medical facility. So I looked into the matrices in the masks. I didn't look into all of this jazz at the time, but as soon as this agenda kicked off back in 2020, I did. And then I would have conversations with people and I'd ask them, do you know what a micron is? Do you know how big a micron is? Do you know how many microns a respiratory virus consists of? Do you know how big the matrix in your mask is? Do you know how big, again, a micron is? And people don't. No one does. You and I could probably play a drinking game and or place a bet. I bet you every single fucking person you talk to who is wearing one of those, facial diapers, a public relations Band-Aid, they have never once looked into this. They bought into a superficial message is my point, which is, again, why people don't know about the Republic falling, during the Civil War and being finalized in 1871. People would know these things if you and I were surrounded by people who are well-meaning, capable of abstract thought. Oh, I thought it cut me off. And willing to do the right fucking thing. But that's not what we're dealing with right now. Again, I like those little stickers on the pole, but they're fuck all. They go nowhere, they mean nothing, and they are fuck all. No one's doing the right fucking thing, so nothing is going to change. It's only going to continually get worse. And this is what we see. This is the trend. This is how it's tracking. But people aren't going to dig deep. That's really what I'm driving at. I know I'm long-winded. If you sat through this and you heard me out, I appreciate you taking your time and energy to do so. And as always, what the fuck do I know? I'm just some hapless bastard sitting on a fucking curb trying not to be an asshole, even though I'm an asshole.